Join us as we go back in time to get our licenses to kill from MI6. We take a look at all the James Bond songs of the 1960s on today's very special episode of That Song from That Movie. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You're through to That Song from That Movie, the journey through the very best and worst of movie songs. I am your shaken, not stirred host, Dietrich, and we are joined today by the positively shocking Alex.
Is that Thunderball? That one? What was that from? Where he electrocutes him and says that was positively shocking.
I think it must be Thunderball.
Yeah, the one with all the water, isn't it?
The one with all the water.
The one with all the water, yeah. But it's also where he throws a harpoon through someone and says "I'm glad you got the point" or something along those lines.
Great, brilliant. It's like Commando. And
we're also joined by... He has a slight stiffness coming on in his shoulder. It's Ben.
Definitely in the shoulder.
As long as it's above the waist.
Yeah. Reoccurring injury.
Got a Viagra stuck in my neck. Had a stiff neck for weeks. I don't know.
How are we today?
Good, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit murkier, a bit windier today. I've had glorious sunshine for so long.
It is just raining where I am.
Yeah, it's raining here.
Oh, well.
It's grim, dark.
Always beautiful in East Anglia.
I love the fact that we always talk about the weather.
Of course we do.
Yeah, it's just it's like ringing back on a holiday, isn't it? What time is it over there? Oh, it's 2 hours earlier. You know it's 2 hours earlier.
I was going to mention a film I saw yesterday, but then you started talking about the weather, and I was like, no, that's much more appropriate.
Was it a weather-related film? Did you watch Geostorm?
No, I didn't. No, that would have been good. Perfect Storm. That's Pierce Brosnan in, doesn't it, as well? That would have been a good link, but alas.
What film did you see, Alex?
Oh, it was Detective Pikachu.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what did you think?
I wasn't overly impressed with it. I thought it was okay. I thought there could have been more. They could have invested more in the actual mystery of everything. It seemed like that was kind of just a second thought. And obviously the twist I've worked out about 20 minutes beforehand.
Only 20 minutes.
Only 20 minutes. Yeah, no, yeah. It should have taken. It should have been sooner probably, but. Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought the world was pretty cool. It was kind of like a cross between London and Japan, and it was quite awesome.
San Francisco.
Yeah, it was a bit like San Francisco. Yeah, London, San Francisco. Yeah.
My memory of seeing this film in the cinema is sitting down and then realizing it was only children in the rest of the cinema, and I've sort of realization of, oh, this is a kids' movie, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that was kind of what was disappointing about it in a way. Actually, it was oh, this is really a kid's film when I was watching it. That's how it felt.
Yeah.
When I maybe was expecting something more. But as well, I thought it would link back more to the original Pokemon, the movie. And I know it did a little bit, it did reference it, but I thought it would be tied in more somehow. I don't know how. I thought for a long time that the main character's dad would be Ash Ketchum.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been nice.
Well, it seemed to all make sense because his Pokemon was a Pikachu and so on and so forth. And he had the link with Mewtwo.
So a subpar 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it was alright.
I do want another one, but not for kids.
How could they do another one, though?
Oh no, I'm a Pikachu again.
Yeah.
It could be it's not Detective Pikachu this time. It could be a different occupation.
Oh yeah, like Dr. Pikachu or...
Fisherman Pikachu.
Oh, he wears one of those sort of fisherman jumpers and a hat.
Yeah.
This has quickly become the Pokemon podcast. Another podcast that we should do.
Okay, right. So first of all, we should probably just say we've made it to episode 10.
Yay!
Still going.
With it being episode 10, we're introducing a slightly different concept of special episodes where we throw away the format and do something different. So this time we're looking at the James Bond songs of the 1960s.
We should say as well, we're doing every film from the 60s, and we're doing it in chronological order, and we'll discuss each one. And then at the end, I think we're going to decide which is our best and worst from the decade.
The best and worst of James Bond movie songs.
From the 1960s.
Yes.
And then the next episode we do, not the next episode we do chronologically, but the next one we do in this series will be the Bond films of the 70s. So the first film of the 60s in the James Bond collection was Dr. No, of course, which was 1962. So this one, not interestingly, probably you would guess, is the only one that doesn't have a main song. And in fact, the main song is the James Bond theme.
Which is arguably the best song.
Which people may argue is the best song, yeah. Well, it's what's interesting about this one is that So first of all, Dee, you'll appreciate this after your rant in the Breakfast Club episode that we did. This is the only Bond film that goes straight into credits from the gun barrel scene. So it doesn't have a pre-credits scene. So I know you'll appreciate that.
Yes, absolutely.
So it has the gun barrel sequence, which, I should mention as well, is not Sean Connery. It's actually a stuntman, and his name is Bob Simmons. And I think he was the guy who did the gun barrel sequence for the first 3 films.
Oh, right.
Oh.
Certainly did it for the 2 that I've got. And you'll notice the difference, because I think it's Thunderball, which is the 4th one, has Sean Connery, and he gets down like on one knee, whereas the one in the first 3 has a hat on for one thing, and then like he like sort of does like a jump.
It looks like Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, he does look like Inspector Gadget. He kind of does like a jump turn as well. It's quite cool. But I think it's something to do with the change to the aspect ratio between the 3rd and 4th film.
Okay.
So they refilmed it with Sean Connery in it. So that's interesting. So it goes straight from that into the opening credits, which is where the Bond theme plays first. And then there's 2 more songs that come straight after it, one of which is the Dr. No theme, which is kind of like a bit like a sort of samba rhythm, sort of like interlude. And then it goes into what is called the Kingston Calypso, which is, of course, a reference to the fact that the film is set in Jamaica. It's sort of like a steel pan version of Three Blind Mice, and there's like 3 old men like walking in silhouette across the screen, and then that kind of links into the first scene of the film. So the Bond theme itself was written by Monty Norman, which I think is a lovely name. It sounds very cozy and comfortable. Monty Norman. And it was arranged by John Barry, who would later go on to compose music for 11 Bond films.
Legendary, isn't it?
However, controversy. Barry claims that he originated the Bond theme, not Norman, which has been disputed in court twice.
Wow.
However, Norman won both times, and the most recent one of those was 2001. So he claims that he, for contractual reasons, was not allowed to claim credit for composing the song. He's not even actually listed in the credits, it's just like the John Barry Orchestra.
Gosh.
Yeah. You said, Ben, probably that the Bond theme song might be up there with the best, might be the best song. It's probably the most recognisable.
I think I love the nod that it has in like all, well, I say all, but at least most subsequent Bond films, where it's like he's either just done something like exuberantly cool and then it plays the theme again, or he's in a car chase or something, and I think it just reminds you of like how undeniably cool he's intended to be, regardless of his flaws. I think it just brings back to the original intent of the character, and I think it's just always it's like, even when you haven't seen that many, or your fondness is just for, say, the recent Bonds like the Daniel Craig era, when the song starts, it's almost like cultural nostalgia. That it might not be something that you have yourself, but it feels good to watch a Bond film.
So if someone hasn't even seen the James Bond films and you said, "What's the James Bond theme?" they'll know it.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And I love that I think every film opens with it, and opens with the gun barrel scene. Like I said, this one goes straight into the credits, but I think everyone after that starts with that. Then the little white dot like goes to the core, and then the scene expands from there, and there's a pre-title credits. So I think every time you go to see a James Bond film, it gives you that sort of like immediate like, oh yes, I'm settling down for a Bond here. It's I guess it kind of like we talked about in the Breakfast Club episode D about the credits.
Yeah,
this in a way kind of gets round it, I think, because one, you're expecting a pre-credits scene in James Bond now, but it always has that interlude at the beginning that sort of like gets you into it, because I think your point was that you don't have time to settle. But I guess maybe that's almost the point with James Bond, is that you get that and then you don't have time to settle straight into the action. So I guess maybe it's an example where they've subverted the problem that you have. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and I guess it was probably opening credits were a lot more prevalent in the 60s as well.
Yeah, and these are pretty cool opening credits. I don't know if you guys watched them. Yeah. And I think it obviously sets the tone for every Bond film to come in a way. I think when we talk about Rush from Love, that does more. But I think that this is sort of like, it's got that sort of, it's very 60s. It's very like people like doing like hip dancing and like, you know, from the torso down, like sort of like shimmying and stuff. And then it segues into the weird like Three Blind Mice thing. It's very unusual. Other than obviously the James Bond theme, if you saw the last half of the opening credits, you probably wouldn't know it was a James Bond film. But I guess obviously there was no like common iconography and everything for a James Bond film at this point, because it is the first one. But I like that they took it in further films and made it like a trope. They made that sort of opening credits with the silhouettes and the colour and everything sort of work across. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Should we go into the second film?
Go for it.
So From Russia with Love was the year later, so 1963. So the song was written by Lionel Bart, who was famous for writing the musical Oliver.
Oh.
But he only wrote this song. It was scored by John Barry this time. So Monty Norman was no longer used. It was just John Barry.
Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
This guy trying to steal all the limelight.
Yeah, exactly. So John Barry comes in as the formal composer for this film. The song was performed by Matt Monro, and he was given the name The Man with the Golden Voice.
Well, yeah, I'll go with that.
And Matt Monro has also recorded other major movie songs. Do either of you know what they are?
Oh,
Ooh,
I'm going to kick myself.
question.
Born Free,
Oh, really?
from the film Born Free, and On Days Like These, which is from Italian Job.
Yeah. Damn it. I should have known that one.
So, as I said before, like with Dr. No, they incorporated sort of like Jamaican music into the opening credits and the sort of Tile 3 split song. And they were planning on doing something similar with this film. Even though it's called From Russia With Love, the vast majority of the film, I don't know if you guys remember, it's set in Turkey.
Yeah.
Good 3/4 of it. And then probably the last quarter is on a train. So there's not, I don't know if there's actually any parts in Russia in this entire film, possibly. There might be a little bit, I can't remember that.
Where does the title come from, then?
Because it's linked, the whole storyline is linked to Soviets and Russian spies, but it's set in Turkey. It's Spectre, it's the initial introduction of Spectre.
Yeah.
And I think there's ties to communist Russia, as a lot of the films in the early Bond series are. In fact, the ones in the 90s, I think, are as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
All the Cold War references and whatnot. That's where it comes from, I think. So yeah, they were planning originally to incorporate Turkish flavour, and it's interesting because I think it was John Barry, but it might not have been, it might have been someone else. He went on a trip to Turkey to sort of soak up the music to try and get inspiration.
Okay.
Paid on the company credit card, was it?
It probably was, yeah. He basically just said, we had a strange week going around to nightclubs and soaking up the music, but ultimately they learned nothing.
I wonder why.
So basically they went back to Lionel Bart and was like, yeah, we've got nothing. And then this is funny, the quote is just like, and then he produced From Russia With Love.
We got nothing but these amazing tan. He probably knew what the song was going to be before he even went.
Exactly, probably already had it written.
Yeah.
He played them for a trip.
One thing they did say was that they thought the Turkish music was a little bit too comedic for a James Bond song.
Okay.
And yet, Free by Mice was in Dr. No.
That's very true. Yeah, that is weird. So I think that this is the first and only time, but you guys might know differently, that a James Bond song features diegetically in the film.
Let me get the dictionary.
Means it's like within the context of the film, so not played over the top, not played on the credits. Yeah. So it features on a radio midway through the film. That's the first time you hear it, because in the opening credits, the song that features in it is the same song, but it doesn't have any vocals, and it's like an up-tempo version.
Yes.
Which many people from the comments and stuff that I read, comments of YouTube, has to go back to, I think we used them once before, they were sort of saying that they preferred the version in the opening credits because it was like more up-tempo, it was more action-packed, felt more like a James Bond song, which, I can understand. But personally, I think the final version that features in the middle and in full in the end credits, I think it's kind of representative of what the James Bond songs become. It sort of sets the template.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Matt Monro one's great.
You can definitely see how the ones that are coming up, that is the template, and that's where they've worked from.
Was there a particular reason why they chose not to have it over that, or was it just that subsequently they chose to?
For one, obviously they didn't do it in the first film, but I think as well it is because of what I said about it not being up tempo enough. I think they thought that it'd be too like a sluggish introduction to a film that's like filled with action.
Mm-hmm.
And as well, like the opening credits, the pre-credits scene, I don't know if you guys remember, but basically it's like James Bond running through like a hedge maze, and he's like, you're not quite sure why he's there and what he's doing, and then he gets killed, but then you find out that it's like a training exercise, and it's like a man in a mask. It's like a man in a Sean Connery mask. And like that sets a theme that comes up in one of the later films, which we'll cover in the 60s, where James Bond also dies at the beginning. I don't know why they decided that was the thing they wanted to do. Well, it happens in quite a few, doesn't it? But I was thinking of You Only Live Twice, but specifically.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler. Yeah, spoiler for the first 5 minutes.
I think the title cards for From Russia With Love are the worst in the 60s.
Do you think?
Yeah, it's just like a projector printed on like a woman's stomach or a woman's arm, and there's one where she's belly dancing, and I can't help but laugh.
Yeah, well, so that's obviously a reference to Turkey, and also the part, like the weird scene there's a really unusual scene in the middle of this film where James Bond sort of attends like a traveller's party, and there's like two women fighting to become the wife of someone, but like James Bond interjects, and then so like one of them tries to become James Bond's wife. It's really bizarre.
Some of the flaws evident with James Bond, especially in the earlier films.
It's just like, what is this? Yeah, so obviously that's kind of like a reference to that sort of like gypsy, kind of Turkish gypsy sort of situation. But it is weird. But maybe that was like really advanced. Technologically wise from the 1960s, because I thought that about the Dr. No one, because it's sort of like just like coloured silhouettes dancing on the screen, but they probably thought, ooh, look at this new fancy technology we've created, isn't this amazing?
What projectors
Maybe not a great example, but it is kind of what they do for every other James Bond film afterwards, almost, the sort of like the female body swaying side to side. They kind of do it in a different way every time, but it's basically what it is.
Yeah, they look a little bit uncomfortable, don't I feel, in the From Russia with Love one. Like, they just don't look natural in their bodies in those movements.
You can start getting the impression they're going, you want me to do what?
Yeah. Just John Barry shouting, dance, dance!
You want me to wiggle my arms? Like, okay.
yeah.
This is like a big film, right?
Yeah.
Sure it is, yeah.
To be fair, I think we might go into it, but they use the projector again, don't they, in title cards for another film in the 60s?
They do.
Maybe the opening credits was filmed on their trip, this mysterious trip to Turkey where they learn nothing.
Yeah, it might have been.
They're just like in back rooms in these weird Turkish nightclubs, probably like smoking hashish or something.
Do you like the song, Alex?
I do like the song for this, and I think I would probably rank it highly overall. I think we're going to do a just like an individual list for the 60s at the end, aren't we? But or like a top and bottom. But I think like in the overall scheme of things for the how many Bond films have there been now? Probably should have known this. 26?
24. And the new one's 25, isn't 25.
It? I think I'd rank it very highly, actually. I really like this one. And I think as well, because it's the proper first Bond song, it obviously holds that weight, but it kind of informs every other one in a way. I feel like every other song you can trace back to this one, even if it's just like a musical refrain or the sort of big band or the booming voice. Especially like the sort of like Shirley Bassey ones or the sort of more ballady ones can definitely do draw from this one. So yeah, I think it's one of my favourite. It's also one of my favourite films as well. I think it's probably one of the best films. I don't think many people would, aficionados, let's call them the Bond aficionados, would disagree that it's probably one of the top 5 films. Yeah, so I really like this film and song. I think it's probably one of my favourites of both.
It is a really good song.
Very good song.
I kind of maybe agree with them that it probably would have worked as an opening credits. I don't think it would have distracted from the film. But it's nice that it ends the film as well, because I don't know if a lot of them do they? I don't remember too many where the closing credits of the song. Maybe they do midway through, but this kind of comes in as the credits do. And it's kind of like a nice sign-off, obviously, with the name of the film, From Russia with Love. I think it ends the film perfectly.
So now it's my turn. Moving on to 1964 with Goldfinger, which was directed by Guy Hamilton. Powerful tycoon Goldfinger has initiated a scheme to destroy the world. James Bond's going to stop him.
Good summary.
That's what you want.
And he likes gold. So Goldfinger generally is considered to be one of, or if not, the best James Bond movie of all. It's the highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes with 98%.
Is it?
There's only one rotten review, so I obviously had to give it a read.
Of course.
So the synopsis of this review. What they give us in Goldfinger is an excuse of science fiction fun, a mess of mechanical melodrama, and a minimum of bedroom farce.
A minimum of bedroom farce? Is that his criticism?
You wanted more.
So this one rotten review was from December 1964, and it was in the New York Times.
Oh, gosh.
Crying out loud.
So I went and read the full review, and like 3 or 4 times during this review, he complains that there's not enough women.
Wow.
Good God.
I mean, that's a snapshot of the times, isn't it?
I cannot believe that.
Aged like milk.
Moving on to the bit that really is the bit everyone remembers. The song from Goldfinger, called Goldfinger. So it gets bonus points for having the name of the song.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so far it's 100% of actual songs that have the name of the song.
Except Dr. No.
Yeah, well, 100% of the actual songs. I'm not counting it. And actually, there was one called Dr. No Theme.
Okay, yeah, you can have that. So it's sang by Dame Shirley Bassey, who I believe is the most used singer for James Bond songs, with 3. I don't know if anyone else has more than 3.
No, I don't think so. Does Tina Turner have 2, maybe?
Possibly. So Dame Shirley Bassey should have had, well, nearly had 4, had a future movie song not being changed. Let's put a pin in that. With Goldfinger, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a classic. Like, the opening is just delivered with such sort of power, isn't it? And, like, ferocity.
And we can't forget
Yes.
Why did yours dip at the end? Why did it go down it?
Why is yours like an old western?
Yeah, you're doing the Ennio Morricone version.
That's what it does. It's not what it does.
Yeah, but it's just more big band. I think yours just sounds like you're doing the.
Yeah.
It needs to be. Yeah, it needs to be sort of. It's still got the oomph at the end. Yours is like you've finished the end of the whoopee cushion, and it's just.
I think if you re-listen to it, the intro bit is like that.
John Barry should sue Ennio Morricone, or vice versa. I mean,
Interestingly, we're saying it sounds like a Morricone song, but the actual people that wrote the lyrics thought it sounded like Moon River.
River.
It would improve the song. Doesn't sound like a steamboat sort of plodding along song, does it then?
So like we're saying, it's like its iconic song, and it sounds like so many other songs.
Yeah.
Breakfast at Tiffany's would be very different.
I can kind of see it, like maybe like the actual way she says, like the notes she hits, possibly might be similar, but the song itself is. I don't know how you can say it's that similar.
So it's used on the opening credits. So this is another example of projection on to women, but painted in gold. Nobody died. That is an urban legend.
This one's done better though. Like the projections looks a bit more stylish.
They toned the craft, that's why.
I actually think From Russia with Love looks better because there's bits where like Oddjob's face is like projected on someone's thigh, and it looks really strange.
As it's meant to be.
It's warping his already large head to make it look larger.
I heard that was in his contract.
You must project my head on someone's thigh.
So Shirley Bassey didn't record the original version of this song for the film.
Okay.
So the people that wrote the lyrics, Leslie Bricusse, don't know.
I'm going to go with that exact one, Dean, in a bit.
Yeah, I was kind of annoyed that I had to go first with that. That person, plus Anthony Newley, and it was Anthony Newley that recorded the first version, which you can listen to on YouTube, but it was rejected for being too creepy.
Goldfinger.
Whereas like Shirley Bassey is quite a bombastic, she's like shouting it. His like, Goldfinger.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
What, like Leonard Cohen or something like that?
Spoken word, yeah.
But the music's also quite jazz influenced.
Yeah.
So you can almost imagine it being played in a jazz club with people sat around in the dark, clicking their fingers when the song ends.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would definitely give it a go on YouTube. It
I'll
starts
listen.
off weirdly, but I think by the second time you get to Goldfinger, you're sort of like, I kind of get where this is going. Regardless, it wasn't right for the movie, so they brought in Shirley Bassey, who apparently was dating John Barry. Is that his name?
Yep.
Really?
Wow. Maybe that's why she kept coming back.
Yeah.
How many did you say he did, Alex?
11. But he composed, like, he was the composer on the films. I don't know how much he was involved in the individual songs.
Yeah.
Probably obviously a slight influence with the music and things. I imagine it was his orchestra that recorded them. Do we think it's... Well, actually, no, I'm not going to ask that. I was going to say, do you think it's a Shirley Bassey song? But so I suppose we'll leave that till the very end of the series of
that's a good
podcasts.
idea.
Yeah.
I think pretty much all of hers are great. So, but I think this one's got to be like one of the ones that everyone just like knows immediately. Like if you think, like if someone asked you to think of a Bond song, I imagine this is probably one of the very first that would come to mind.
I actually tested this out yesterday, and my wife, who's not Bond aficionado by any stretch, I don't think she's seen these original ones. I played all 6 of these songs from the films in the 60s, and this was the one where straight away she was like, oh, it's Goldfinger. And she's not seen Goldfinger.
Yeah.
Which you're not like, oh, it's Moon River.
She wasn't, no.
I didn't realise Breakfast at Tiffany's was a Bond film. I think it's just one of those ones that everyone just knows straight away.
Yeah.
Probably from the Simpsons Max Power episode.
The musical intro, though, is just, again, even before the words have started, it just resonates, doesn't it, in musical history.
Yeah, it does.
Like Dee said, bombastic is the best word, probably.
There is someone that doesn't like this, and that was a producer on the film, a guy called Harry Saltzman.
Oh, yeah.
He campaigned to get this song removed from the film during production, but it was too late for a new song to be written and recorded.
Really?
Annoyingly, I couldn't find the source, so I'm going to take this with a pinch of salt, but there was a quote attributed to this Harry Saltzman guy about the song, in which he stated, That's the worst fucking song I've ever heard in my fucking life.
Nice. I think
Don't
Harry
beat around the
Saltzman was one of the two people who set up Eon Productions, so he was obviously a big name in setting up Bond.
Yeah, it's him and Broccoli.
guy,
Yeah, Albert Broccoli. Yeah, they're the main two producers, I think, for most. Yeah, pretty much all of them.
So I assume we don't agree with Harry Saltzman's opinion of Goldfinger, the song.
100% not. No.
Yep.
You would just flip it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Let's move on to the next one, which is, unlike what's written in my notes, it's called Thunderball, which was released a year later, 1965, and directed by Terence Young, which was his third and final James Bond film.
Can we just talk about very quickly how quickly they churned these out? 62,
Yeah.
63, 64, 65.
Well, this one's December 65, so I guess there's slightly more time between this and the previous one.
Just been constantly filming them.
Yeah, just never stop.
As soon as I finish on one, it just fly to the next location.
What, John Barry flies to another place to try and learn about musical inspiration?
Yeah, go to it more night.
Where's the next one? Japan? Fantastic. I'll get my coat.
I mean, I was going to say that Sean Connery must have found it difficult to follow what was going on, but to be honest, no one knows what's going on in Bond films anyway. So
No.
plots are just so bizarre in some cases that it just doesn't matter.
Did you say plot? Because I've got the plot for Thunderball.
Go for it.
So a terrorist group, Spectre, hijacks warheads and threatens widespread nuclear destruction. James Bond is going to stop him.
Does he?
As in, does he succeed?
He's going
or-
there to try.
With the help of Tom Jones.
Just play it in his head over and over.
Yeah, Tom Jones serenading him. The inspiration you need.
It is, yeah, I mean, it is. Just goodness gracious.
The reason why I wanted to bring up that plot is because if you're sat at home thinking, isn't that the plot to Never Say Never Again? Then you are correct.
We were not allowed to speak about that one.
Yeah, so basically there's a large legal battle over who created the story of Thunderball and the characters. And eventually the rights were split, allowing a separate production company to create a James Bond film with exactly the same story, essentially. Though it's not considered an official canon James Bond film.
Because it's not.
I feel like maybe when we get to it, talk about the fact that Never Say Never Again even has its own song. Like, it has a James Bond song.
Well, weird.
Yeah.
And it's weird that it's Sean Connery in both as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, if it was like they'd remade like a Roger Moore, it would be but with Sean Connery. I mean, I couldn't understand it, but I could at least, like, accept it. But this is just so bizarre. They would make the same film twice with the same person in it.
It really is.
What's that? They made the same film twice? Well, the same production company began to start creating a third version of this Thunderball story in the late 90s, using Timothy Dalton as James Bond. So we're in the same story, but Timothy Dalton. Any guesses on what the title of that one was going to be?
Euro Millions.
We said never again.
Miles away. It was Warhead 2000 AD.
That's the Bond name, isn't it? Sounds more like a sci-fi novel.
Warhead 2000 AD, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Some sort of cheap paperback sci-fi novel.
Does it mean like all the tech would have been like based on what is futuristic in the 60s? Like, would he have like a really naff-looking jetpack, but in the year 2000?
Probably.
This is the one with the jetpack, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking because I had the PS2 game of From Russia with Love. They did like I don't know if you guys remember this, but they did
yeah.
like a video game version with Sean Connery in it. But you had a jetpack in one of the bits, but they obviously just pulled that from this because it's not in the film. But it did have Natasha Bedingfield in it.
The game or the movie?
The game. The film might have. I don't think she's as old as that, but...
So I'll move on to the song for Thunderball, which is called Thunderball. And it's performed by Sir Tom Jones. So it's on the opening credits. Again, it's scantily clad women, but this time they're swimming.
Yeah.
They've turned it up a notch now.
Yeah, silhouettes of women swimming. The background is like pictures and video of bubbles, but it's like somebody's messing around with the colour saturation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
I just whacked my
Was that one of the bubbles popping?
Yes, it was.
Actually, you know, from our angle, it really sounds like underwater, sort of like sonar.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
yeah.
did, yeah. Leave it in. It's intention. I was just going to point out Sir Tom Jones, Dame Shirley Bassey. Why is it not Sir Matt Monro?
Is Matt I honestly don't
he's
know.
dead now.
Matt Monro is English, though, isn't he? Yeah.
He is, yeah, but he is dead. So, I mean, I don't think you can have a post-Hume's knighthood.
No?
Can you know?
Well, you possibly can, I don't know. Maybe they put, like, the sword on, like, your grave or
I
something.
don't know if it, yeah.
I'm not sure.
I'm all for post-hummus knighthoods.
Post-hummus. Should all knighthoods be post-hummus?
Yes.
Is it just hummus on its own or with pear bread?
Yeah,
Or-
you get told you've earned it when you're like 30, but you can't use the title until you're deceased.
Because that way, if you do anything before you die, you can have it revoked. Your life's ended, you're not going to mess it up.
Yep, we don't need to go into that one too much, but yep.
Let's avoid it. Let's just avoid the fruit.
Yep.
Okay, so what do we think of the song Thunderball?
I did not like it. myself. I think it's probably the worst one from the 60s. And I'm going to argue that later on.
Spoiler for the end of the show.
I just think it's weird. It doesn't sound right. I don't know if it's the way he sings. It doesn't quite fit with the music. I don't know. It just... Already, even though there's only been 2 James Bond songs, it's like he's trying to do a James Bond song. That's how it comes across. Yeah, so I'm not a huge fan of this one.
Yeah, and you won't have to argue with me, Alex, because I'm exactly the same. I just don't really like it. It's not memorable. I listened to it even the other day, 2-3 times over. It doesn't stick.
Yeah. When we decided to do this, when I looked at the films from the 60s, I kind of remember all of them except that one. I just had no idea how it went. Maybe it's the difficulty of trying to get Thunderball into a song. The word Thunderball.
Well, difficulty with the word Thunderball is interesting to say because, infamously, the final Thunderball, Tom Jones fainted while performing.
Really?
Really? Yep. It does go up, because I think at the beginning it's down, it's like Thunderball, and then at the end it's like Thunder, like massive operatic Thunderball, isn't it?
Yeah, whilst he was recording it, he was told to hold the note, but he hadn't prepped, so he was holding Thunderball like on a normal amount of breath. I've got a quote from Tom Jones. I closed my eyes, and I held the note for so long, when I opened my eyes, the room was spinning. And then he went on to say something about Elvis Presley.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He's like Tom Jones crossed with Captain Birdseye.
I must admit, I didn't think the first accent we were doing on this episode would be Tom Jones.
No, were you expecting a Sean?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, thanks for that, Ben. I was expecting you to do it as well.
I know. Sorry, I've let myself down.
That was good, that day. I enjoyed it.
You're brilliant.
It seems like it wasn't worth it, though. You know, like passing out for this song.
Well, I guess he didn't think, I'm going to go for it. It was more like, oh no, I'm being told I have to keep going.
Yeah.
So you say like this song is like the most forgettable, but as soon as this one started, this was when I was like, I know this song, but from something else.
Really?
So somehow Leslie Nielsen's spoof movie SpyHard is getting a second mention on this podcast series. That movie, the opening credits, which is done in the same style, like underwater, but the difference is Weird Al Yankovic is the person who's singing. It's done quite well. It's actually a pretty good Bond song, except the second verse where the lyrics get a bit stupid, obviously. But they spoof the whole Tom Jones fainting at the end. When Weird Al goes for the final note, his head explodes. I think in future, we'll need to do a sort of Bond song parodies episode. Maybe get a few Austin Powers in there.
Yeah, definitely a few.
So if you thought that Thunderball didn't seem like it fit and it was trying to be a James Bond song, that's because it was the 4th song recorded for this film.
Okay.
Remember earlier when I said Shirley Bassey had 3 but should have been 4?
Yes, I did remember that, D.
It's all going to pay off now because she recorded the original song for this, which was called Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Ooh, I like it.
Which, again, you can listen to online. It's on YouTube. It's inspired by an Italian review of Dr. No, which dubbed James Bond as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. The song, I would say, is okay. Definitely the weakest of the 4 she recorded. So I can see why they got rid of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really hit the heights of Shirley Bassey's other songs.
Is it better than Thunderball?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
So, second, a song called Thunderball, this time performed by Johnny Cash.
What?
That would have been interesting.
It does not sound at all like a Bond song. It literally sounds like, what if I changed Ring of Fire to Thunderball and then just recorded it?
That's most Johnny Cash songs, to be fair. I could not imagine a Johnny Cash song over a James Bond theme.
Yeah, it just doesn't fit, and I don't know why it was ever considered. I know obviously in future we'll get different styles, different takes, and different genres, but this is one that just does not work.
Cross it off.
Song number 3. This one was a re-recording of Mr. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. But this one was by Dionne Warwick.
Dionne Warwick, yeah.
Warwick, yeah.
So it had a different pace. It had a longer intro because they'd already finished visuals for the film.
Right.
This version is so much better than Shirley Bassey's.
I mean, Dionne Warwick's got an amazing voice. I can imagine her on a Bond.
Is it still kind of like a big bandy type song, though? Like a bit like the Thunderball song is?
This one is.
Yeah.
The Shirley Bassey one, not as much.
Right.
Of all these songs, this one probably should have been the song for the film.
Interesting why they didn't go with it.
Tom Jones' song was written and recorded a week before the film was due to be released.
Oh, God.
Wow.
So
rush job.
If it sounds like a rush job and sounds like they're trying to make a Bond song, it's because they were rushing to do it.
That kind of rings true.
Rushing with love.
Oh, God.
I didn't write that joke down, by the way. That was ad-libbed.
Was that organic? I like that. It was terrible, but I liked it. Yeah, that makes sense as to why it doesn't quite work, I think. It doesn't feel very thought out. Although when he does say Thunderball, I think it does pop up. pop up on screen. Get my peas out.
It seems weird to me that you'd create the credits before you know what song it's going to be.
Yeah. I suppose if you're having 4 songs, you have to go through 4 songs to figure out. You probably have to do for time constraints.
So that concludes my section of the 1960s Bond songs. Hi, Future Dietrich here. It's at this point during the editing process where I realised that the episode was not going to be ready in full in time, so we decided to split it into 2 parts. So next week we'll continue talking about 1960 James Bond film. In the meantime, like, share and subscribe and let us know what you think. Bye.
Just like you were in a recording studio.
You've got a guy behind some glass like going, higher, higher.
Yeah. Go on the beat, Alex. Go on the beat.
Just hit that snare drum. Hit it.
There's no snare in my earphones.
Is that Eminem, that one?
Yeah. Is it? Mic is on?
Gonna do this one song. It's one song only.
Where's my frappuccino? I want my fucking frappuccino.
Right, shall I start?
Yep.
Yes.
I'll be doing this for days.
Yep. This can go at the end.